Continuing with the Inner Life lectures from Your Merced Hazrat Inayat and the Sufi way of the Inayatiyya. Fulfillment of the obligations of human life. The position of the person living the inner life becomes like that of a grown-up person living among children. At the same time, outwardly, there seems no such difference as is apparent in the age of the children and the grown person, the difference lying in the size of one's outlook, which is not always apparent. One who lives the inner life becomes much older than those around one, and yet outwardly, one is the same as every other person. Therefore, the person who has arrived at the fullness of the inner life adopts quite a different policy to the one who is just beginning to tread that path, and also a different one to that of the person who knows intellectually, different from the one who knows intellectually something about the inner life, but who really does not live it. The action again is different in the world, for the latter will criticize others who do not know what that person thinks to know, and will look upon them with pride and conceit, or with contempt, to think that they have not risen to the mystery, to the height to which that person has risen and understands, that is, those who follow the way of the intellect. Such a person wishes to disconnect with other people, saying that they are backward in their evolution, and that person cannot go with them, saying, I am more advanced. I cannot join them in anything. They are different. I am different. One laughs at the petty ideas of those who surround one and looks upon them as human beings with whom one must not associate, with whom one must not join in all things they do, because one is more advanced than they are. I'm going to go back just to be sure that we know that this is the attitude of the person who knows intellectually something about the inner life. Intellectual. But for those who come to the fullness of the inner life, it is a great joy to mingle with their fellows, just as it is for parents to play with their little children. The best moments of their lives are when they feel as a child with their children and when they can join in the play of the children. The parents who are kind and loving, if a child brings them a doll's cup, will pretend that they are drinking tea and that they are enjoying it. They do not let the child think that they are superior or that this is something in which they must not join. They play with the child and they are happy with it because the happiness of the children is theirs also. This is the action of those who live the inner life, and it is for this reason that they agree and harmonize with people of all grades of evolution. Whatever be their ideas, their thoughts, their belief, or their faith, in whatever form they worship or show their religious enthusiasm, they do not say, I am much more advanced than you are, and to join with you would be going backward. They do not say, I am much more advanced than you are, and to join you would be going backward. Those who have gone so far forward can never go backward. But by joining others, they take others along with them onward. If they went on alone, they would consider that they avoided their duty toward their fellows, which they should perform. It is the empty pitcher that makes the noise when you knock upon it, but the pitcher which is full of water does not make any sound. It is silent, speechless. So the wise live among all the people of this world, and the wise are not unhappy. Those who love all are not unhappy. Unhappy is the one who looks with contempt at the world, who hates human beings, and thinks to be superior to them. The person who loves them thinks only that they are going through the same process that person has gone through. It is from the darkness that one has come into the light. It is just a difference of moments, and that person with great patience passes those moments while the others are still in darkness, not making them know that they are in darkness, not letting them feel hurt about it, not looking upon them with contempt, only thinking that for every soul there is childhood, there is youth and maturity. So it is natural for every human being to go through this process. I have seen with my own eyes souls who have attained saintliness and who reached to great perfection, and yet such souls would stand before the idol of stone with another fellow human being and worship, not letting the other know that they are in any way more advanced than other people, keeping themselves in humble guise, not making any pretense that they have gone further in their spiritual evolution. The further such souls go, the more humble they become. The greater the mystery they have realized, the less they speak about it. You would scarcely believe it if I were to tell you that during 4 years of the presence of my merchant, I have hardly more than once or twice had a conversation on spiritual matters. Unless the conversation was on worldly things like everybody else, nobody would perceive that here was a God-realized person who was always absorbed in God. His conversation was like the conversation of every other person. He spoke on everything belonging to this world, never a spiritual conversation, not any show of piety or spirituality, and yet his atmosphere, the voice of his soul, his presence, all revealed all that was hidden in his heart. Those who are God realized and those who have touched wisdom speak very little of the subject. It is those who do not know who try to discuss it, not because they know, but because they themselves have doubts. When there is knowledge, there is satisfaction. There is no tendency toward dispute. When one disputes, it is because there is something not satisfied. Friends, there is nothing in this world, wealth or rank, position, power, or learning, that can give such conceit as the slightest little amount of spiritual knowledge. And once a person has that conceit, then that person cannot take a further step. One is nailed down to that place where one stands, because the very idea of spiritual realization is in selflessness. One has either to realize oneself as something or as nothing. In this realization of nothingness, there is spirituality. If one has any little knowledge of the inner laws of nature, or if one has any sense of thinking how good I am, how kind I am, how generous, how good-mannered, how influential, or how attractive, the slightest idea of anything of this kind coming into the mind closes the doors which lead into the spiritual world. It is such an easy path to tread, and yet so difficult. Pride is so natural to a human being. One may deny a virtue 1,000 times in words, but cannot help admitting it with one's feelings, for the ego itself is pride. Pride is the ego. Humans cannot live without it. In order to attain to spiritual knowledge, in order to become conscious of the inner life, people do not need to learn very much, because here they have to know what they already know, only they have to discover it themselves. Here they have to know what they already know. Only they have to discover it themselves. For their understanding of spiritual knowledge, they do not need the knowledge of anything except themselves. They acquire the knowledge of the self, which is themselves, so near and yet so far. Covered over by conditioning, my commentary. Covered over by conditioning that one needs to slough off. Another thing the lovers of God show is the same tendency as the human lovers. They do not talk about their love to anybody. They cannot talk about it. One cannot say how much one loves one's beloved. No words can express it. And besides, one does not feel like talking about it to anybody. Even if a person could, in the presence of the beloved, that person would close the lips. How then could the lover of God make a profession? I love God. The true lovers of God keep their love silently hidden in the heart, like a seed sown in the ground. And if the seedling grows, it grows in their actions toward their fellow humans. They cannot act except with kindness. They cannot feel anything but forgiveness. Every movement they make, everything they do, speaks of their love, but not their lips. That shows that in the inner life, the greatest principle that one should observe is to be unassuming, quiet, without any show of wisdom, without any manifestation of learning, without any desire to let anyone know how far one had advanced, not even letting oneself know how far one has gone. The task to be accomplished is the entire forgetting of oneself and harmonizing with one's fellow humans, acting in agreement with all, meeting everyone on their own plane, speaking to everyone in their own tongue, answering the laughter of one's friends with a smile, the pain of another with tears, standing by one's friends in their joy and their sorrow, whatever be one's own grade of evolution. If people, through their lives, became like angels, they would accomplish very little. The accomplishment, which is most desirable for humans, is to fulfill the obligations of human life. Be continued.